Welcome to Hide and Seek in the Dark for adults, Into the Radius! Into the Radius is a survival horror game where you're trapped from the rest of the world in, you guessed it, the Radius. A desolate land cut off from the rest of the world filled with dangerous monsters and anomalies. You're given missions that take you closer and closer to the Radius itself, and as you do, the enemies, tasks, and lore get more complex. But to raise the stakes, every 4 days the enemies in the Radius reset. Into the Radius has some of the most strategic and realistic combat you'll find in a VR game. It's so realistic, in fact, that I'm convinced this game is the future of humanity after the fallout of World War III. But hey, that's just a theory. A game theory! Smash a like for great content. You physically need to manage ammo and load your gun. Recoil, accuracy, damage, range, reloading, wear, visuals, and bullet spread are amazingly consistent with their real-world counterpart, which means if you're a true American at heart and press your guns at night, have ample knowledge and understanding of definitely legal firearms, then you'll have an actual advantage starting into the Radius. Also, your weapons wear down with time and you physically need to clean and maintain your items to keep them in good shape and lower the chance of them jamming and misfiring. For strategy, you need to know which firearm and bullet type to use in each situation, be able to manage ammo well, and be creative and patient with positioning and planning an attack to avoid being spotted. Also, you need to carefully spend your resources in the shop you earn from missions, making sure to only buy things you know you'll need for the specific mission you're going into. This all requires a decent amount of foresight and thinking. Overall, to give the combat an 8.5 out of 10. Combat based on realism is definitely immersive and satisfying. However, when you're walking around in the middle of the night, you need to fish through your backpack to find the right ammo, load your gun, and prepare it to fire. All the while, you can barely see anything, and creatures are lurking in the darkness ready to pounce. It can all feel a bit tedious. That being said, many of these issues can be resolved with proper organization and thinking ahead. Into the Radius is one of the most immersive games I've played in VR. The realistic combat and survival, the detailed environments, and the elements of horror that are genuinely terrifying for regular people. But I'm not regular. I'm Ultra Mega Plus, 10 times value. That's right, I'm the new premium iPhone. With all these different elements, Into the Radius creates a world that feels grounded and real, while cleaning off your weapons as you see them wearing down, or choosing which items to take with you on a mission to keep weight off your back may sound cumbersome and slow. These very same things are what create a universe that really suck you in and get you invested in every mission and moment. However, one thing that brought down the immersion for me were the constant bugs. Often when climbing up a ladder, opening a crate, you'll have to grab a couple times trying to latch on. Sometimes enemies' hitboxes don't line up correctly and you'll waste a bunch of shots that go right through them. Overall, I give the immersion 9 out of 10. Into the Radius has surprisingly deep lore and an interesting story. Unfortunately, the way the game goes about moving the plot forward through their mission system can feel repetitive. Missions are usually get into an area, get an item, and get out alive. Doing that over and over again can feel a little stale at times, and the story is almost always conveyed in the same 3 ways. Statues of people who died in the Radius. After each mission, there will be a note in your backpack that gives you some information, and then there's the little girl statue who leads you through the main storyline. Overall, I give this story an 8 out of 10. For a game with a deep, complex, broken world, you would expect the story to be similar. Plus, it comes with a solid 15 to 20 hour campaign. However, the problem is, unless you're willing to do research or put in a lot of thinking, lots of the dots don't really connect, and by the end of the story, you'll likely be confused and have absolutely no idea what is going on. So, is Into the Radius worth buying? If you happen to be in the niche audience that likes survival horror games and don't mind planning and organizing, then yes, you'll love this game and should absolutely buy it. However, if you can't handle intense horror or can't imagine yourself cleaning off your weapons, organizing your backpack, and managing hunger, time, and resources, this game is not for you. Chances are Into the Radius is a game you'll either love or hate, and overall it gets a 7 to 10 from me. If you are interested in Into the Radius, the second game is in beta and I'll be covering it soon. It's called, you guessed it, Into the Diameter. By the way, thank you all for 25 subscribers. Appreciate you all. See you in the next one.